G'day everyone and welcome to a post-season edition of the Weekend Wrap, brought to you by Coricast. Of course, it's not the weekend, it's not a wrap, we're not reviewing anything, we're just looking at the 2024 AFL Draft, of which we hold high hopes with our pick 4. So without further ado, let's crack straight in, shall we? And joining me tonight, as always, is Macca. How you going, Mr. Macca?
Well, I'm sort of, like a kid waiting for Christmas.
Can the candy stop?
Yeah. Tomorrow night it all happens. I mean, it's what we all, as I said just before we started, that towards the end of the season, when you realise you're not going to make anywhere near the 8, you're sort of hoping you don't go up because you want to get down there where the goodies are, and we're down there where the goodies are. So this should be quite exciting.
Yeah, no, look, it's it was nice to have a little bit of a break, but it's fantastic to see the crowd back in Discord and also on YouTube. So welcome to everyone who's joined us on Discord and also on YouTube and also on Facebook tonight, I think. I'm not sure whether that's working or not, but whatevs. It's great to see you all. This will be our final podcast for the evening, for the year, Mac. How's that going?
Yep. And well, it's in some ways it's sad because I rather enjoy getting to hear waffling on about the footy, and there hasn't been any, but at least we've got something to talk about tonight, which is the draft. And there's some very, very, very good players, and I'd say this is going to turn out to be in future years a super draft, and we've got the opportunity of picking up a good player, and I'm sure we will.
Yeah, look, certainly one of the better drafts we've had for a while. Super draft or not, it's extremely even at the top of the table, and I reckon there'll be some gems to be had further down the list, Macca. And I guess it's interesting. We find ourselves with one pick in a very strong draft, and at the beginning of the trade period, we were saying that it would be nice to convert a couple of players into a few more draft picks. Well, we ended up doing the opposite and using up our draft picks on recruiting talent, and those trades were pretty good, I thought. But what it's left us with is basically a father-son down the end and a one shot at glory at the top of the table.
Yeah, and look, I understand what you're saying. I thought we got in three pretty good players. They are first 18 players, and they will improve our side. There's no question about that, and I'm happy with the players we recruited. But if this was Port Adelaide in a strong draft, their future would be burnt up immediately on getting some some more goodies, and that's what I think we should be doing. They do say that next year's draft is not going to be as good. Sometimes that turns out to be correct. Sometimes it's not. But this one is, and I think you're right. When you talk, there'll be the people talking about they've got a good one at pick 39, pick 43, pick 47. I'm sure this is going to be a draft where there's going to be, as you say, not only good players at the top, but there's going to be other players scattered through there. And there's one in particular I would really like us to go for, and that's Dodson, the ruckman.
Well, you and I differ on that. I mean, there's no question that he's a great potential ruckman of the future. I just think ruckmen in general aren't worth spending draft capital on. I'd rather get them after they've had development. So someone else can develop them, Mac, as far as I'm concerned, and then we can lure them home. What do you think?
That's the other way to look at it. I personally, I reckon this kid's got the potential to be a real star down the track, and maybe it might be very hard to get him down the track because, I mean, he's a basketballer. He sort of hasn't really fully committed himself to football 100%, yet he can play outstanding footy for his age. He's tall, he's mobile, he's agile. He's actually almost like a midfielder with his reflexes. But anyhow, having said that, that's just my opinion. And I wouldn't be surprised if, not necessarily Dodson, but we, it's been made very clear by Ogilvy that we actually might do things in the draft that aren't standard. So who knows?
Well, I don't know. The talk over the last 24 to 48 hours is that the draft order is fairly set. We've got the wild card of North Melbourne perhaps looking to shuffle because really they're not overly interested. Well, I'm sure they're interested in another high-end midfielder, but there's a nice rebounding defender there. What's his name? Tory at at the back end of the first round, and I think they might try to shuffle down and get a couple. But really, and there's been talk of them doing that with us, dropping down to 4. We don't have a lot to give them though, and I don't think we want to give them our future first. So I think our lack of currency is probably going to leave North with a decision to make it 2. Either they take best available or they have a bit of a reach and take the defender. I think they'll take the best available, to be honest with you.
Well, common sense says you do. You take the best available, and I know that. Well, I personally, an experience tells us you don't grab. Look, there's not many backmen that are grabbed high that do well. So yeah, it's usually the mids, isn't it? And this is a mid draft. The top 6 or 7, they are all mids. So yeah, but that's the way I look at it. I think North will probably stay at 2 and take a mid. Who knows? But I've been proven wrong many times, and we just don't know what they're planning behind the scenes. They may have something planned, they may have nothing planned, and every club likes to keep their secret or their plan secret. And I'm sure that whether it's North or whether it's any other club, there will be some changes.
Yeah, don't disagree. Look, Mac, why don't we start off by just looking at our draft position? So we obviously have 2 spots. We have 3 spots available in on our main list. We only have, we have more than 2 picks, but really we only have 2 picks worth anything. And it's likely that one of our spots will be taken by Kane as an upgrade from the rookie from the rookie list. Okay, obviously we've already delisted Harry and Burgess, and the word is that we will upgrade Mark Keane and then re-rookie Schoenberg and Burgess.
Yep. I was having a chat when I was out with a couple of other fellas recently, and we were talking about this. And one of the things that sort of prevents us from doing some tricks with our future, like our future first, etc., is that the fact that we have got this situation where we've promised these 2 boys that they could that we would pick them up in the rookie draft. And the general consensus of that particular meeting was, and I don't think perhaps it'll ever happen, is look, if there's a good player to get, just stuff them, because they're only players that aren't going to have a great future at the Crows anyhow, and they do the dirty on one of them to necessarily get another pick if it was going to be good for the club. I don't think we can do that, but that was the mood of the meeting I was at.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I'd be disappointed in the club if they pulled a trick like that. I'd rather them, pay out a Brodie Smith and create a spot that way rather than turn around and say, "Sorry, Harry, you now got to go into the pre-season draft."
Yeah, well, and look, I think Brodie Smith, and somebody mentioned the chat, and on Twitter I've posted a lot about this. Smith is a problem, and look, why the hell they kept playing him till he qualified, I just don't know, because they got him to his target was, and then stopped playing him, and which meant we were stuck with him for next year. And he's 32, he'll be 33 next year. And we have many. We've actually brought in Cummins, for example, who plays in that role. We've got so many other people that can play that role. And Smith, I don't know that he'll play a game anyhow. And so why would we not say to him that we'll pay you out your contract and we'll actually employ you as a development type coach with our players that aren't playing league, and you play in the twos as one of our top up players.
We'll never know. I actually intimated that question when we were down at the club a couple of weeks back, and got a pretty straight bad answer.
Oh yeah.
Now,
you would have got it up.
Yeah. Now, just on that, Mac, I haven't had your thoughts on the new logo.
Well, I think it grows on you. I was disappointed when I first saw it. I guess I was somewhere between okay and marginally disappointed. But the more I've seen it, the more I like it. And in fact, if you ask me now, do I like it? I'd have to say yes.
Yeah, I was much the same. When I first saw it, I thought, oh, that's a bit average. But it is a very clean design. It's very simple. And it has grown on me too. And I must say there are a couple of versions of it. The monochrome versions look pretty good. And as with any logo, mate, you win something wearing it, and it becomes iconic. So that's all we've got to do. We've just got to win something while wearing it, and then we'll be good to go.
I think good way to go.
Yeah. All right. So, Mac, just one final reminder to people that we are live and interactive. We've always been live and interactive, Mac. And as such, people have the opportunity to get on the blower and have their say. And we've got 18 or so in Discord at the moment. We've got a few watching on YouTube. If you do want to have your say, there should be plenty of opinions about who we should be taking with our pick 4 or whatever pick 4 ends up being. Stick your hand up on the chat, and we will definitely get you on board because we are interested in what people have got to say.
Well, just on that thing, Ogilvy said he's never had as much trouble going through the top 5 to 7 players to try and the greatest examination ever, trying to work out which is the best player for the club. And I can understand why, because it's a very, very good talent up there. Partly it'll be resolved by the fact that a couple of players or 3 players will have gone before we get our pick anyhow, and they may be the ones that we want, I don't know. But if it was Phoenix making the call, what's your call?
Well, Mac, that's at the end of the show. We've got a whole bunch of analysis to do before we, unless you're in a hurry and you want to go somewhere and,
No, Fiend, I'm happy to leave it till the end of the show.
Sit down and watch F-Boy Island or something like that. I don't know what you do.
I don't watch. You watch that, Fiend? I didn't even know it was on. You just give yourself away there, mate.
Well, bit of Abbey Cornish, never hurt anyone. Look, no, we got a bit, but you're dead set right, Mac. You're dead set right. I spent a fair bit of time. I got hold of the Coates League app, and I watched quite a few games over the course of the last couple of weeks.
Me too.
And I think the biggest issue, or not, it's not an issue. It's a plus of this. There's a lot of different players that, in and of insofar as their own ability is concerned, they are great at what they do. And there's different style of midfielders. There's accumulators. There's impact players. There's outside players. There's inside players, but they all at any one stage could go top 5. So for once, whilst I'm sure that all the clubs have got their talent order and all the rest of it, I think a lot of it will come down to how team or how clubs think that a certain player is going to fit into their current midfield group because there is a wide range of talents on offer, and each of these players that we'll talk about in a minute bring something a little bit different and a little bit unique to the table. And I'm sure that the club would be happy with any one of half a dozen, the top half a dozen. I certainly would be. I'm more in favour of some than others, but I'd be quite happy with any of the top half a dozen without even blinking. So it's very rare to have a draft like that.
But your point's very valid about the diversity of it. I mean, they range in terms of height from 182 to 195. That top half dozen. So I mean, and that means that there's like big boys, really big, strong boys, and then there's at 182, there's speedy boys, there's accumulators, there's some that are quite vigorous. So I mean, it's none of those first 5 or 6 are alike. They just all have different characteristics.
Correct. All right. So look, without any further ado, Mac, let us look at what we're faced with. In a minute, when I find out what we're faced with. There we are. All right, so first of all, let's have a look at the draft order. You can't see the damn screen, but that's okay. I'll talk you through it, Mac. So the first 10 picks, we got Richmond at 1, North at 2, Carlton have traded up to have a look at 3, Adelaide at 4, Melbourne at 5, Richmond again at 6. The Saints have 7 and 8, Melbourne at 9, and Richmond again at 10 or 11. And then we have, it's an interesting draft when the bottom dweller starts proceedings at pick 12, and it's also very unfortunate that we're going to see Port Adelaide's presence on the Wednesday night, because they haven't been in the first round for a while, but they've got 13.
Yeah, they just saw one of their best players to get there, but they're there.
Yeah. So, look, obviously, Richmond very heavy in this draft. I think they've got 6 choices inside the top 3 rounds or whatever. The Saints have got 7 and 8 after getting rid of Josh Battle and getting an absolute gift of a compensation pick from the AFL.
Wasn't right. That was
absolute
not right.
Gift. Anyway, I'd even say that Richmond got a bit of a gift for Dan Rioli. But anyway, so a lot of those picks, like Richmond, have done particularly well, getting picks from Freo for Shai Bolton. They've put themselves in a very good position, but they won't be doing anything for a couple of years because they're going to be very, very young, very new. And Nathan05 in the YouTube chat, thanks very much, mate. Nathan says, love the effort put in throughout the year, lads, and we love the support, and everyone who's paid some money to buy us a coffee, Macca on YouTube, Radicus and I think Ads and Nathan and Jane M and a couple others have the support's been well worth it, as has the support, financial or otherwise, from all our Crowcast community, Mac. So extremely happy about that, and thanks, Nathan. And you're right, we do put in a bit of effort, mate, but it's a labour of love, isn't it, Mac?
Oh, we do. We love footy and we love talking about footy, so why not talk to these people? These are pretty good people to talk to.
Well, we love it. We love it so much that we even put up with each other just for the sake of bloody talking footy.
And that's big.
It's huge. It's huge. All right. Now, look. I could have gone through and put 10 or 20 players up tonight, Macca, but really we've got one pick.
Yep.
And I think it comes down to 6 players. Really probably only comes down to 5 players. Really only probably comes down to 4 players. But I've put 6 in. I've put Jagger Smith, Finn O'Sullivan, Sid Draper, Harvey Langford, Sam Lalor, and Josh Smillie. And if you will bear with me and work with me on this one, Mac, we'll just work through each of these lads and talk through their strengths and weaknesses and see if we can find what we probably think would be the best fit for the Crows. Because, as I mentioned, I don't think it's just about talent. I think it's talent and fit.
Yes, I agree. In fact, I've got the very same 6 players, and they're the same. I've got my own work done on those same 6 players.
Yeah, well, no points for copying my work, mate.
I didn't copy your work. I did it independently, mate.
All right, well, look, let's start off with the obvious choice, because most pundits, including Cal Toomey and all those blokes, have come up with Sid Draper as our choice. So let's have a look at Sydney, shall we? South Adelaide lad had a very good season, had some injury problems during the middle of the season, but came good with some nice work towards the back end of the season in the A's for South.
Yes, he did.
Play a little bit of their highlights while we're talking away. The thing about Draper, and the thing that I think appeals to a lot of people, and doesn't not appeal to me either, but in terms of fit with our midfield, is his pace.
Well, that is the big thing about Sid, is that he's got absolutely blistering pace, and he does run all day. He's not somebody who just does a little burst here and there. He's a good. Somebody mentioned the chat Vardy Magic. Well, he's kicking at rated as elite. Well, that's also a great big advantage. I like his fit in the sense that we don't have anybody with blistering pace at the moment. We've got Peatling, he has got good pace, Peatling, but I think Draper's is quicker than that again. Saligo's got a bit, but overall, I mean, we've had Crouch and Lead for so long, and they're slow. I think that's the one thing I do like about Draper. If we did land with him, I think he fits in that way. That he's got something that's unique, and the others haven't quite got. Maybe Rankin might have, but I'd like to see Rankin coming in and out, not permanently a mid. He's got that pace, and I think that's a fit for him.
Hope people were just watching the highlights then. That tap from Dodson over the back to Sid Draper, that was magnificent. Look, I agree with everything that you've just said, Mac. I've put a bit of a pros and cons together in the pros column. Very good in traffic. He's got a good step. He's very agile. He can get separation quickly, Macca, and create space for himself to be able to dispose of the football. All good qualities, and all qualities that, apart from a couple, we maybe lack in our midfield. Apparently, by all reports, he's got a great attitude, very professional approach to his football, works extremely hard to present himself. He's had a couple of issues with injuries, as a lot of the young lads have these days. They get worked so bloody hard, but his approach to rehab has been excellent. As we've both mentioned, a fantastic turn of foot, very quick. And he's not lazy. He works both ways, Macca. He does get back and as well as getting forward. And of course, one of the biggest pros when you're weighing up a group of players that have so many similar levels of talent, he's a local lad. So the go home factor is negated.
Well, that is the second tick for him. He's got the pace, and he's also local, so the go home factor is removed. But we also have to be aware of the fact that he might not be there for us, because Carlton were looking at him.
We're talking about all that in a minute. We're just going through players at the moment, Macca.
Okay.
Just work with me, old man.
Well, I was just saying that.
We'll go through all the permutations in a minute. On the con side, can be a little bit rushed. Going at the speed that he's going, sometimes his disposal can be a little bit suspect, as can his decision making sometimes. He has carried a few injuries during the course of this season, and overall he's still got a bit of physical development to go, I reckon, Macca. So whether he can make an impact in year one with that frame, I'm not 100% sure. He's got some attributes that would make him slot straight into the side, but I'm just not sure whether physically he'd be able to do more than maybe half a dozen games. What do you think?
I'm thinking I think he will be there from game one if we do take him, and providing that his pre-season form is up to scratch. Because he's played with men in the sample, and he didn't just play; he played really well. In fact, he started playing in the sample. So, I think he's ready, and as you said, he's had a few injuries this year, which might have slowed him down a bit, but. Towards the end of the season, he was really at his peak, and look, he's good. He's a very good, very good player. And if we do take him, I think he'll be playing from day one.
He hasn't got the physical strength, but some of his attributes remind me of Jason Horne-Francis light, like a Diet Coke version of Jason Horne-Francis in the way that he gets through traffic and finds space and gets on the outside and gets his own ball as well, but works his way to the outside. He's never going to be a bull like JHF is,
No.
but some of his attributes are quite similar, Mac.
Well, he's got some of the good ones. As you said, he's not a bull, but I think he's very smart at getting into the open. He's just because his work rate is good, and he doesn't just do one thing. He's prepared to move on and make another space. So. Yeah, I like him.
Yeah. All right. So the next one we have up in our little gallery is Harvey Langford. Now, I've liked Harvey from a long way out, and he's risen up the ranks of those that are doing the Phantom Drafts and whatnot, and really come into contention with a very, very strong season. He's not the quickest player going around, but I think out of all the players in the top half a dozen, there's a couple that I think are ready-made, and I think Harvey Langford is one of those. He's just ready to go. Macca, he's good in close. He's got a beautiful kick. He works both ways, and his physical size means that he doesn't get pushed off the ball at all. He's very composed. On the downside, he lacks a turn of pace. I worry a little bit whether he's one of those lads that's developed physically early and therefore the pack catches up to those sorts and they get found out a little bit. And also he's a Vic Metro lad, which means that the go-home factor is high. But in terms of just judging him purely on his football, I really like the way he moves. I really like the way he uses the ball. He makes excellent position. He makes excellent decisions, and I would not be disappointed at all if we ended up taking Harvey Langford.
Yeah, he's 191 centimetres, so he is a big-bodied boy. And I think I'm correct in saying he won the medal for the under-18 nationals this year.
Yeah,
the Larky medal. So I mean, the boy can actually play, and he showed it in that the nationals. The thing I noticed about him, he's very strong overhead. He's got a lovely left foot kick on him, and to me, he played more like a forward in the highlights that we saw. I'm not saying he wouldn't be an asset to have, because he obviously can play, but you're right about that. The only thing, my only question on him is his pace. And we've got a couple of slow players that are already in there. I do like the way he's got ability. We're not talking about that. He's got a beautiful kick on him. He's a strong mark. In fact, he plays more like, as I said to me, like a key forward than anything really.
Oh, not really. He is a ball getter, and I think. In some respects, he would slot into the Matt Crouch role very well, Macca. If you're talking about how a player fits into our current group, I think he slots into that. There's a couple of others as well, but I think he adds a little bit more than what Matt Crouch does, because not only can he get the ball, but he's got a beautiful long kick, whereas Matt Crouch struggles to kick over an ant nest. So that's something that he brings. So And Vadi Magic, like Riley points out, my typo. He doesn't come from Vic Metro at all. He's a Vic country. So for me, if we're just talking about Draper and Langford, I can see reasons for both. Who do I think is a better player? I think Langford right now is a better player. I'm not sure who will turn out to be the better player. Who probably gives us more of what we need right now? Probably Draper.
Yeah, look, I'm largely that way. You're right about Langford's kicking. He's got a beautiful kick on it. And if only Crouch could do that, because Crouch gets the ball enough. If he could just kick like that, but he'd be a star. No, Langford's got a beautiful left leg on it. And as I said, he's got a very strong pair of hands too when he's going for a contest for a mark. As you say, he would probably be an improved version of Matt Crouch, but I think what we really do need a little bit more is more pace out of the middle. So on that basis, I would pick Draper over Langford.
All right, continuing on, Mac, and the next one is Jagger Smith, who many have said we've been into, and many have said that they really want. And I should point out that we ran a couple of polls today, Mac, and the public have spoken, and yes. On Twitter, certainly the choice was Draper over Smith. 63.6% of 240 votes wanted Sid. 24.3% wanted Jagger, and then a little bit for O'Sullivan and a little bit for Langford. We also ran a poll on Discord, and again Draper was the big choice. Smith and O'Sullivan were the next two, Langford after that. So certainly the public, the paying public, Mac, they want Draper. Anyway, so moving on. But Jagger Smith.
Well,
go on.
Yeah, Jagger Smith. I like Jagger Smith as a player, and they make the comment that he's a bit plays a bit like Zach Butters, and I think that's a fair comment. Look, he's a very, very, as I said, he's a ball magnet. He gets a lot of the ball. Look, if we ended up with him, I wouldn't be upset. I would not be upset at all. I think he's a bloody good midfielder, and he would add to our side. There's nothing wrong with him with the guy at all. As somebody said, he's a better lighter version of Matt Crouch. But to me, he plays very much like Butters does. He just wants to get the ball all the time. Look, as I said, if we got him, we certainly wouldn't be upset.
All right, so my thoughts on Jagger, gets a lot of it. He's got good touch in close. He makes good decisions. He's agile, and he's a leader. In the cons column, I feel like at times he's a little bit one-paced, and not too much in the contest, but I feel like he doesn't have a second gear out in open field. He doesn't hurt all the time with possessions, and we've got a couple of those blokes, mate. He's a little bit on the small side.
Yes, he is.
And my personal opinion, I think he will be a jack of all trades. In terms of a midfielder, I think he'll have a very solid AFL career, but out of all those in the top six, I think he's probably the most vanilla, Macca.
You could argue that, because he hasn't got a feature in the sense that like a real feature. We were talking before about Langford, and like his particular features, and when we talked about Draper, we talked about his particular features. And so you are right. I mean, he's a ball magnet, but as you say, a vanilla ball magnet in the sense there's nothing that says that's his trademark. We can see what Draper's trademark is, and we can see what Langford's trademark is. But this guy, he's good. He's good. But as you said, in the end, he might be just a very good player to have in your team, but not an outstanding one.
Yeah, a little bit of, like, a lot of people saying Zach Butters. I actually think, in terms of how I project him as a player, maybe a little bit of Connor Rozee, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I
look,
just feel like he's got a ceiling, and I just feel like his ceiling is going to be very, very good. And this is only my observation, and my observation means jack shit, really. Don't know why people are watching a stupid podcast. But here we are, so I got to say something. But look, no, seriously, I watched a fair few games with him and Finn O'Sullivan, obviously in the same team, and I just found that he's always around it. He doesn't hurt you a lot, and he's not a game-breaking midfielder, Macca. He's not a game-breaking midfielder, and I feel like that's not what we need. We don't need another accumulator.
very good point, actually, because again, this is where if we're going to do the comparison, we'll take Draper because Draper adds the missing pace that we don't have. And as you say, this guy will be an accumulator. We've got accumulators.
Yeah, Bobby Brady in the chat saying he's still a kid. Absolutely, and we can only judge what's in front of us, Bobby. And I don't wish any of these kids ill, and I think Jagger will have a really good, solid AFL career. These are just my observations based on what I've seen, watching, a bit of footage, not only the highlights, but also going through and watching a few games over the last couple of weeks, and trying to get a feel for some of these lads. And that's just my opinion. So I think he'll have a very good career. Very good career. I just think he's a bit same. That's just my opinion, mate.
Yeah, and I think there's a bit of... But as I said, I wouldn't be upset if we did end up with him. I think he will be a good player.
Yep. And then probably the last of the favoured four is Finn O'Sullivan, and it's debatable whether Finn even gets to us at 4. But let's cover him anyway, just on the off chance that we do some weird deal with North and get up to 2 and take him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm not sold on Finn O'Sullivan. Again, a lot of good traits. He gets his own ball. He can get good separation. He's quite good overhead. He's got a nice kick.
Mm-hmm.
But he has the games that I watched, particularly early in the season. I know he was carrying a few injuries and whatnot during the course of the season. Early in the season, he really did fade in and out of games. He did carry quite a few injuries, and he didn't work all that hard defensively either, Mac. Lovely skills. Looks a very neat player. Knows where to put himself around stoppage. And as I said, can get good separation and break away. Would I have him at 2? I don't know whether I would.
Well, the only way we would be able to have a consideration of taking him would be if we did trade with North Melbourne and upgrade up to 2. But to me, I don't think it's worth it, because I think we will definitely get the choice out of Smith or Draper. And I think that either one of those is a winner for us. I probably prefer the local lads marginally because of that point of difference he's got. Coming back to O'Sullivan, though, look, he's a good player. There's no doubt about that. He is a good player. Is he better than the other 2 that we're talking about? Well, time will tell. But on what we know, I don't think so. I think he's going to be good. It's going to be good. But we hopefully all these ones we're talking about are going to be good. But I hope we don't have to make that decision. Because to me, I think if we got Carlton nabbed Draper and we had to get Jagger Smith, I think we've still done very well. But it's more likely that Carlton will take Jagger Smith and we get the local boy. And if we do get the local boy, I think we've done very well for him.
Yeah, but we're just talking about O'Sullivan right now. Ads.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I'm just
no,
hang on a minute. Hang on a minute, Mac. Ads. I am watching on YouTube, and yeah, I'm not sure whether it's because I'm playing video on the video that it's loaded up. Hopefully, it corrects itself in a sec. I won't play the video for the last two lads and see if it corrects itself. Maybe just hit pause for a second just to see if it catches itself up. Sorry, Mac. Just a bit of trouble there on YouTube. Look, another really nice player, Finn O'Sullivan. A really nice player, did very well in the champs. Another with good leadership quality. I don't think he's worth going up to 2 and giving away a future first to give to North to get up to 2. There's probably only one player that I'd jump up for, and that's Sam Lalor.
Yes.
I'd definitely sell a bit of the farm to grab him, but I think he'll go at 1. So yeah, that's my take. Finn O'Sullivan probably reminds me a little bit of Sam Walsh, but got a long way to go to get to that level, if that makes sense. He's got bits about him that look a bit like Sam Walsh, but he doesn't get it near as often. In fact, that's one of his knocks, that he doesn't probably get enough possessions as a midfielder. He does fade in and out a bit, goes a bit quiet. I watched the first game, Eastern Rangers and Josh Smiley's team, and I can't remember what they're called now. Anyway, Josh Smiley's team versus Finn O'Sullivan and Jagger Smith's team. And he did go in and out of the game quite often, as did Jagger Smith, to be honest with you. Neither of them had amazing games in that, and it was first round, but you expect most of the lads to hit the ground running early on in the season before it catches up to them. So, look, would I go at a 2 for O'Sullivan? No, I wouldn't. Would I be happy if we happen to grab him at 4? If we had to, then I would be quite happy. We've got ourselves a very good midfielder. How does he fit in our current mix? I don't know whether he does. That's probably my assessment.
Yeah, and I think that last comment of yours is the valid one. Is the fact is, whoever we pick, we've basically got a structure which we're actually bringing new midfielders into it. We're bringing Peakning, for example, in there. Neil Bullen will have a turn through there at times as well. So it's you have to think of the structure that we're bringing the player into. And what do we have in that structure, and what we don't have in that structure, and and I think that's where I always fall back to Sid Draper. There's that pace that the boys got, and I think, look, if we ended up with Draper, I'd be delighted. If we ended up with Jagger Smith, I'd be delighted. If we ended up with Sullivan, I'd be delighted.
Yeah,
they're all
not
good.
Finished not finished yet.
Well, no. I'm saying that in terms of, when you talk about O'Sullivan, I think the other two I would prefer.
Yeah. All right. So a couple more that I will cover just because we can for completeness, Macca. But this first lad, I think Richmond would be stupid not to take him at 1. Sam Lalor. I think actually is a bit of a clear standout in this draft. The only thing that I would wonder about him is the same as I kind of wonder about Langford, whether he's an early developer and whether the pack will catch up to him. He's got great strength in sides, gets really good separation out of contests, really good mark overhead. He can play forward, play midfield, hits the scoreboard. Just looks ready to go, in my opinion. He's the other player, in my opinion, that looks ready to go. The only problem with him is that he won't have an early impact. I think certainly as a midfielder, he won't have an early impact. They might decide to play him up forward for a little while, Richmond, while he builds up a bit of a tank, because he has had a few injuries.
He has, yeah.
He's certainly a bullocking mid player rather than an evasive player. So you're talking about a very much in the Patrick Dangerfield style, and probably hasn't got that explosiveness, but he's certainly not an evasive player. You know, he's very much a crash and bash rather than a work his way around traffic. But he does need to build a tank, Mac.
Yeah, look, I agree. And your point about these bigger lads at under 18 level, I think it's a very relevant point because of the fact that the comparison of their bodies to their opponents is that they have a very distinct advantage. Now, as they get up in against the and they're playing at AFL level, they're up against big hard bodies all around them. So they don't no longer have that size or strength advantage, or if it is, it's minimised. So I think that for them, it's a bigger step up than say for example for Draper, because Draper will still have his pace. He the thing that makes him desirable, he still will have. The boys with the bigger bulk, well, they will eventually, as they get older and bigger, and that'll come back into play, but not immediately.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how he plays out. Certainly in terms of where they all sit right now, I feel like he's just half a step ahead of the pack, Lalor. I'd love to have him in my side. As I said, I think he's a ready-made footballer. As I said, my only query is I just wonder where his ceiling is, how much more physical development he's got, and therefore how much further his football goes, and whether he actually turns into a strong leading forward who can play midfield rather than a midfielder who can go forward, Macca.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And the last one I'll just chuck in here is a bit of a favourite of mine. Not a favourite of many as the season's worn on, Macca, but he absolutely took Fino Sullivan and Jagger Smith apart in the first time they met this year. Josh Smillie, he's got great strength and size, very much a Patrick Cripps build. He's agile for a big kid. He's good in close. He makes really good decisions. A little bit one-paced. Again, the query about the early developer things. Probably needs to work a little bit harder defensively. But I tell you what, I would not be unhappy at all with Josh Smillie, and I'm surprised that he has fallen. What happened with him is he had a quiet Nationals, and
yes,
since the Nationals, he's just fallen all the way out of conversation. But his early season form at under 18 level was dynamite, and I think whoever ends up taking him, and it might be Richmond, I think they will end up with a very, very, very good player.
Yeah, I do think he'll end up at Richmond. He's 190. What is he? 195 centimetres.
192, I think.
Well, where I looked at it said 195 now.
Oh, whatever. Yeah,
they grow and they shrink, depending on whether he's printing it. But anyhow, like, he's big.
Oh yeah,
he is big.
You're right.
Yep. And as you said, he had a good start to the season. Didn't have a good Nationals, as you said. Faded in fact, almost poorly as the year went on. That's a bit of a worry. And but having said that, that happened. That's more likely to happen with a bigger body boy than with a smaller one. And yeah, I think he'll definitely go. And if I was Richmond, I'd be taking him at that position. He might take a little bit longer to develop, but if you really get him up to AFL standard with a body that size, I mean, it's Bontempelli size, but he's not Bontempelli. I'm pretty sure of that. But he might be still a very good player.
Yeah, don't know whether he's got the class of a Bontempelli. I think he needs to work on his pace, like his ability to get separation and burst away from a contest. But there's a lot to like about him, Mac. There's a lot. I've followed him a bit this season, and he had a quiet Nationals and all the rest of it, and yeah, sort of fell away towards the end of the season. But when the whips were cracking at the beginning of the season and all those lads were at the top of their game, injury-free and all the rest of it, he was a standout. He was an absolute standout. So we won't take him. He'll go after us. But I watch this space with Josh Smillie. I reckon he'll have a very, very good career.
Well, he certainly has. He's shown that he can play good footy, well, as I say, he faded in the second half. But look, he's young, and he'll definitely get taken. He'll get the opportunities, and he'll probably step right up too. Once he's had a couple of AFL seasons.
Yeah, look, I think so, and that's pretty much the half a dozen, Mac. I don't see anyone else figuring in dispatches at all. Obviously, we've got Tory that North might mess around with their pick. But really, to me, it comes. I think it will, depending on what Carlton do at 3 and whether assuming we stay at 4, depending on what Carlton do at 3, and there's been talk about them being into Draper, there's been talk about them being into Smith, a fair bit of ducks and drakes going on. I think at the end of the day, they'll go for the Vic Metro lad, and I think we'll go for the South Australian lad. And we'll end up with Sid Draper, and I won't be disappointed.
Well, I think that's the most likely thing. Ogilvy has come out and said that if there's an opportunity to take advantage of something, and I don't know what he meant by that. It's all nebulous type of statements, but it's virtually saying we're flexible. That if there's an opportunity to do something that's in our favour, that we're happy to do some trading, and I don't know what that would be, but I think it might just be talk and just a statement just in case something did happen. But I think you're right. I think that Carlton will probably go for the Victorian boy in Jagger Smith, and we'll end up with City boy, and I won't be sorry.
The only reason they don't go for Jagger Smith is because they've already got Walsh. And I wonder whether Draper's speed appeals to Carlton just as much as it appeals to us, Macca.
That's the danger. That is the danger. Absolutely. That is the one thing that does worry me, because if you have a look at Carlton's midfield, they've got Cripps, great player, not great pace. Walsh, terrific worker, great player, gets a lot of the ball, but still nothing in electric in terms of pace. And there's nobody else there that has it, so it would complement their midfield very nicely. Where Jagger Smith comes into play towards Carlton, I think, isn't he a cousin of Walsh? Is that right? Did I read that?
Yeah, I think you might be right.
So, it might just be that they take Jagger Smith. So I'm thinking in the end they'll probably go Jagger Smith, and we'll end up with our boy Sid Draper. And look, I think he does add something to our midfield that we don't have. Peatling is going to add some of that as well. So I think if you've got 2 doses of it coming in, that's good.
Yep. Don't disagree, Mac. Don't disagree. I think it's all cut and dried. I think there'll be a bit of talk about certain things happening, a bit of live trade. I don't think the live trading will happen in the first round. Certainly not in the top 10. I think it's done and dusted. North, I think, will take their chances with O'Sullivan. I think Carlton, you're right, will probably take Smith. We'll end up with Draper. And then there's, as we said, still a couple of good players left over for Richmond and possibly St Kilda to jump on with Langford and Smillie. So,
very much.
Look, all the way through as well. I mean, watching a bit of Smiley's team. There's a young lad, Cody Anderson. Cody Anderson. Now, he also played midfield, and I have not seen, he's only a little bloke. He reminded me a bit of Jack Ginnivan in terms of his size, But if you want to see a kid know exactly where the fall of the ball is every single time, go and watch a bit of Cody Anderson. He's got a bit to work on with some of his other stuff, and he might not even... I think he only got half a sniff, half a game in the Nationals, and, you know, if he goes at all, he'll go late and all that sort of stuff. But in terms of a young lad that knew exactly where the ball was going to fall off in stoppage and in marking contests, he was always in the right spot.
Yeah, well, I think that there's going to be a lot of players like that in this draft, Bean, and, you know, it would be... I mean, we've already got our players through trading, and you know, you can only spend your money once. But it'd be nice to have a couple picks because I reckon there's going to be some nice, as I said before, you know, like in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s. There's going to be some nice picks taken there.
Yeah, well, and I think that's why I raised young Cody, because he's exactly the example of what I'm talking about. He's going to be one of those late picks that could very well end up having quite a nice career. So you know, lots to play out. But Mac, so you're saying Draper? I think I'm saying
very much.
So give me, who do you want and who do you think will take?
I think just because of what he can add that we don't have, Draper, because of his pace, and I think we'll get him. So I think that, but I won't be disappointed if it is Smith. But my preference would be Draper.
Yeah, my preference would be Langford, but I think we'll take Draper.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I wasn't asking for your opinion. No, that's what.
Fair enough.
That's my opinion. I think Langford is a more complete player despite his lack of pace, but I think the pace aspect will appeal, and the South Australian factor will be the two deciding factors for Draper to get over the line.
Yeah, well, see, I would have disagreed with you because on the grounds of the pace, only because of the pace thing. Because if we'd have look, he'd be very good in our team if we had a lot of pace in the team already. But that's one thing we just have been groaning about and moaning about for a long time, about the lack of pace in our midfield. And here's an opportunity to put some in there.
I'm not debating my preference. The same as I'm not debating your preference. So we both think the club's going to take Draper. That's fine. Look, and then obviously we would be remiss not to mention that there's a late play, obviously, for Tyler Welsh. It will probably come down to either a late bid or we'll just take him with a late pick. We've got enough, and we can go on a deficit next year to be able to match any bid that comes for him, which isn't probably likely. So we ended up with young Tyler, who has a lot of good attributes, but still got some work to do.
Well, I think he's got a lot of work to do, actually. I mean, his 2K time trial was disgusting.
Yeah, but I would maybe take that with a pinch of salt. Well,
I did wonder that
I have it on pretty good authority that might not have been a true indication.
Yeah, look, that thought did cross my mind. That would not surprise me if that was the case thing, but it was to make sure that we get him later down the track. So that's very possible in terms of his ability. If you watch how he plays well. So. I really was surprised by his time trial, but as you say, that may have other ramifications or reasons.
Not a true showcase. Arab asked about Jack Marcolani playing Sandful, I think, in our squad next year. Probably tailed off a bit. Arab didn't quite kick on. Was always going to be. I don't think anyone projected him at the same level as Max. And whether he's AFL standard, I guess we'll find out during the course of next year as he plays in the twos.
Yeah, I can remember one of the Crows people being asked about him early in the season, or probably about a third of the way through the season, and the answer was so glib and vague. I thought to myself, well, they don't really rate him. You could tell that by the comments that they didn't make about him.
Yeah. Guy, man, I wouldn't see us taking him in the mid-season draft, but who knows what we do with the mid-season draft. So Welsh comes in the forward line. Obviously, we've had the good pickups through the trade period in Peatling coming and Neil Bullen. And I think irrespective of what we end up doing with Macca, you'd have to say overall that the off-season's been a win for the Crows. I feel like we've improved our list. I feel like we've solved a problem by filling a bit of a hole in our age profile. It's going to be probably the question I've got is how much time they give lads like Edwards next year, given that we've built up our midfield stocks, because it'd be and lads like Zach Taylor, and obviously blokes like Harry Scheinberg now really pushing shit uphill.
Well, you've read my mind. I it's going to raise this particular point that, with the guys that we've brought in, Neil Bullen, Peatling, and Cummins, they're going to put a lot of pressure on several players in the club, and players like Pedler, for example, young Edwards. Although Edwards did nothing wrong, he played very, very well in the finals. Cook, he'll be under pressure. Taylor, I thought he did well when he got an opportunity, but will he get an opportunity this year? Burgess, of course. Dowling, the same thing. I think the guy played well when he got his opportunities, but will he get another opportunity next year? And of course, we've got Smith hanging out there as well. So, but there's quite a few players there that the fact we've traded these three players in, and then we'll be bringing in another couple by the draft. It really puts a massive amount of pressure on quite a few of the players on our list. And the ones I just mentioned to you there, that they're all going to be under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and Guy Man mentions Dowling as well. Another one, Oscar Ryan. Luke Pedler probably hangs on by the skin of his teeth, but he's really got to make it. Luke Pedler really has to force his way into this side this season.
I agree.
This is, injuries aside, and some of his qualities make your mouth water in terms of, looking back at, Gary McIntosh reincarnated. But at the end of the day, he's got to put the runs on the board, Luke, and not as a forward, but as a midfielder. And if he can't make it stick at A-grade level next year when he gets his opportunity, that might not do his AFL career any good. We do have Arab in the chat, Macca, who wants to have something to say, so we're always happy to have Arab on. So come in, Arab, and your mic's off, so turn it on and hit us with some truth.
And here he is.
Hello, guys. How are we?
Good, thanks, Arab. How you going, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Missing the cast these past few weeks, but it's good to hear you guys' voice again.
Thank you,
I just want to ask you, would you think, like, if Sid is gone and Jagger's gone, let's say, even though I don't rate him, I wish we get Finn O'Sullivan, would you look at going a bit back maybe and trading a pick in the future? Like getting someone like Bo Allen or, I don't know, someone like that?
Now, can you just make that point again, mate?
Would you look at trading back and getting a future pick for Bo Allen? Like maybe something with St. Kilda? Getting their pick 7 and their future first for our pick 4?
No, well, but what you're saying doesn't make any sense, because pick 4 would have already gone if those players are already gone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, would you look at trading back?
So I mean, if Lalor goes at 1 and O'Sullivan goes at 2, and Draper goes at 3, what you're saying is instead of taking Smith, Langford or Smillie, we trade back to, say, 8 or 9 and try and get a pick in next year's draft or maybe a second rounder somewhere.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, I'll knock that back for 2 reasons. The first one is that this particular coach and this and the administration, they're under massive pressure to perform next year. They need every asset that they can get and of the best quality that they can get. So they're not going to go backwards. If anything, they'd want to go forwards, not backwards. So it won't happen for that particular reason. The second reason why it won't happen is that the one thing we really need is a classy midfielder. And if you go backwards past 8, well, then you're probably not going to find that classy midfielder that you're looking for. So, Arab, I'd say no. I don't think that will happen. I think our problem is to solve it now, not carry on as we are and then look at it next year. I think it's now.
Because what I'm thinking of is next year there is a really good South Australian coming through. I can't remember his name, but St Kilda will probably finish at the bottom again. Let's be honest. And the draft is so even. Dyson Sharp, that's it. And the draft is so even that like guys like Bo Allen, they could even go to be a top 4 pick. And you got like Josh Smillie could be there. You know, you've got Tosh Houghton, who was averaging 30 disposals. Yeah, there's a lot. It's like even if Tosh Houghton was like still playing, he was averaging 30 disposals and 4 goals like a game. But unfortunately, he did an ACL. And the other reason why I say this is because we've got Curtin, we've got Peatling in there, we've got Cumming, we've got like Isaac Rankin is going to go to next level next year in the midfield. So what I'm thinking of is like I would try to go to the future where there is other options. Like we might even be looking to trade in more players, where we can use that pick. For example, Draper as our ruckman. So we would need a pick for there as well. If we're really going to look at.
The player we're going to trade for next year is Nathan Miller.
Yeah, and that's another one that you need a first round pick
Wanganeen
for.
Miller.
Oh, well, he's worth it, isn't he?
Yeah, Nasai, sorry. That's almost a dead set cert. That's who we've got on the table. That's a fair way down the track in terms of negotiation, and we will be putting all our resources into getting Nasai to Adelaide. And that's probably why I'm not as fussed about Draper's speed as what it would appear that I should be, because once you get Nasai in there, you got Peatling in there, you know, we've Rankin, Rochelle, if he comes on, we've got a little bit of pace, and you know, we can afford to maybe have a bull as a quarterback like Langford or someone like that. But look, mate, I don't think we'll skip back this draft, because I think we don't have quite enough pieces of the puzzle yet, and I think there's too much on offer in that first half a dozen for us to turn our backs on it.
Yeah, just throwing a bit of curveball to see what you guys think of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, no, it's lateral thinking, and nothing wrong with lateral thinking.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't even, like, as much as I want to get excited, I keep going back and I'm like, does it really matter with this stupid development that we have? Like, and then I just, like, lose my hope. But hopefully it changes.
So who do you want, Arab? Who do you want?
If it was up to me, I'll go Finn O'Sullivan because he has the pace that Draper has, slightly not as fast, but he also can mark and he has better skills. And the way, if you look at the way he plays in the games, like, yeah, he doesn't average that high disposal, but everything he touches leads to a goal. And the other one is that he's very versatile. So you can see him playing half back or half forward. And there's a lot to like about him. Yeah, he's injury prone, but so was Harley Reid. So there's that thing as well there. So I don't know, but to me, I'd definitely be looking at Finn O'Sullivan if we could.
Very good, mate. Well, we appreciate your input and your support during the course of the year, mate. So if that's your last appearance on the Crowcast for 2024, it's been a good one. And wishing you and your family a very happy Christmas and New Year period, mate.
Yep, good
Thank
on
you
you.
so much. Bye.
And that goes for everyone who's listening to us. It will be our last cast, Macca, and there's a little bit of housekeeping before we wind up. In Discord, for those that are on Discord, and most of you are, there's a couple of stragglers on YouTube that haven't joined the Discord channel yet, but when you do, you'll notice that I'm looking for a couple of people. I'm looking for a couple of community managers to help me out in Discord to manage the rabble that's in there on a day-to-day basis. And I'm also at this stage looking for someone to manage competitions for next year. We will be ramping up quite significantly next year, Macca, in terms of our activity. There's a few people coming on board and a bit happening behind the scenes, but I do need a little bit of assistance in those two areas. So if anyone who's part of the Discord community or who would like to be part of the Discord community feels as if they could fulfill the role of manager, and look, really, it only needs to be someone who engages regularly, has a good sense of balance, and is happy to enforce server rules when needed. Not that we have to enforce rules very often. And it's more just about promoting the Discord channel and the cast in general as well. So, and the competition managers really only to run tipping and fantasy footy because I am freaking hopeless at doing it, mate. So if any of you plebs out there listening would like to get on board, just send us a DM over the course of the next couple of weeks. And we've had a couple of volunteers already, but there's room for more. So if you are interested, then as I said, flick me a DM in Discord and we will sort something out.
It sounds to me like you're going to become the Elon Musk of podcasts.
No, not at all. But look, I have to say that the growth again in the channel this year has been somewhat humbling. We've been, more often than not, we've been in the top 15 AFL or football related podcasts, I should say, on iTunes. That's any code of football, and more often, and quite a few times, we've actually been in the top 10 of weekly episodes for football, all codes on Apple iTunes. We've also been regularly in the top half a dozen AFL podcasts on a weekly basis on iTunes, and you know, this is just as much an audio podcast as a video podcast, but the people that listen to us on audio as they're driving into work on the Monday or the Tuesday morning, your support is gratefully acknowledged here. And then, of course, our growth on YouTube, Mac, we've grown to, it's organic growth, which the club would love. Love a bit of organic growth. But we're pushing up to that 1,000 mark, and the engagement and the live views that we get when we're running our podcast, regularly up around 100 people watching us live on YouTube every week. It's fantastic. So, and we've been, and this, we're finishing up on our 10th year, Mac. It's our 10th year. We've been going since 2015, and a lot of the people that listen to us now started listening to us all the way back in 2015, and for that I'm extremely grateful.
Well, I do know from just my personal contact, Wayne, that the growth this year has been huge. There's so many people that I didn't know were amongst my contacts have hopped on board this year, and they reckon it's a great show, and they reckon that our bullshit is pretty good. So,
well,
I got a shock who some of the people were. I mean, they were all ages and from all walks of life, and they love footy, and they reckon that some of the Port barrackers too, by the way, and they reckon that they do like what we do. And in fact, the Port barrackers said they wish that Port had something like this, but well, we would never do that thing.
Well, no, and Port used to have a couple of great podcasters who used to run Port Fan Radio back when Crowcast first started, and I think Rick ended up moving overseas, moved to the US, I think, and that made it difficult. But they were certainly a bit of an inspiration to us when we started in terms of their content. But 10 years is a long time. 2015 we started. I remember our first podcast took me like 5 days to bloody edit, because we weren't doing it live back then. And I remember after our first season, me saying to Nikki and Pete at the time, I reckon we could do this live, and them going, what the hell? Scared the crap out of them. But we've pushed a lot of boundaries. We've done it live. We've started up our Discord channel. We've been doing it on YouTube live. We've consolidated chats. We've a lot of things that we do, Mac, that a lot of other podcasts don't do, and we should be proud of that. And the people that are coming on board next year, and the people that are going to be helping us out next year, we're just going to take this podcast to the next level. And if the people that are in our community can spread the word and help us just lift to the next level, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, just one last thing about the draft. I've got to mention, Fiend, that with all the various bids that there will be for various players and father sons and all the extra gifts given to the clubs and free agency bids, and that first round is going to be about 27. First round of 27.
I know, it's getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is getting ridiculous. I don't think we're too far away from a bit of an overhaul of the whole system, because once you throw in academies and father-son bids and all that, it's getting a bit stupid.
It's 50% bigger than it's supposed to be.
Yeah, next year's draft's heavily compromised with academy, Northern Academy players. It's just a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, very much so. I just thought I'd mention that because it's not going to be the 18 players, it's going to be 27 of the buggers.
No. Anyway, mate, I reckon that's about it for us for the year. Thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight and over the course of the year. We will be back probably early Feb. There might be a bit of content between now and then on YouTube if I can pull my finger out. And certainly very keen to hear from anybody who wants to put their hand up for those 2 roles, or any other role, or any other way that you feel that you can help the cast. It's a team effort. We're a fantastic community. Nearly 430 people on here on Discord, Macca. Regularly over 1,000 viewers on YouTube now, regularly over 2,000 listens on iTunes. It's fantastic. So thank you to everyone who's participated, donated, come on and had a chat, not you, Vardy Magic, and in any other way been a part of the show this year. It's been fantastic. Have a very safe Christmas. We won't be streaming the draft tomorrow night because we're only interested in the first 4 picks and then it's all over. So we won't do that.
Yeah.
So have a very safe Christmas. Have a very safe New Year's. Good luck to your family, Mac, over the course of the festive season, and we'll be back next year.
Yep. Thanks, and thanks for having me on, Pete, and thanks everybody for listening to us. And I hope to be back next year, and we'll give you some more bullshit next year.
And on that though, good night. Good night all.
Yeah, good night all.